City Council Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, met in Council Chambers on Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. Test. Okay, I think that's better. 6 o'clock p.m. for the purpose of discussing the matters listed below. Notice this meeting was posted on October 3rd, 2025 at 11:59 a.m. In attendance here we have from the committee, we have Councilor Jerslow, Councilor Morcillo, and myself. Absent are Councilor Cohen and Councilor Varela. I guess I'll note also that this committee of the whole, this is co-posted with the Committee of the Whole for the Howard Street ordinance, and not co-posted, I believe, with the petition from Peter Vallis. Not that it matters tonight. We also have with us from the city, Assistant City Clerk Maureen Fisher. So the way we'll do this, we discussed this already, is that we will take up the Howard Street, the ordinance to amend an ordinance relative to public guides for Howard Street, and then we'll take on Peter Vallis's petition after that portion is complete. So we'll start with Howard Street, and I'll give the background on Howard Street because I brought the ordinance forward. And I'll start with a note that I think the entire, as a personal opinion, I think that the entire public guide ordinance needs a look right now. It is absolutely piecemeal. There are streets where amplification is allowed, streets where it's not allowed. The best I can tell, it's where neighbors have complained enough to get the attention of a city councilor in some cases, and I don't think that's probably the way that we should be doing these things long term. And there probably needs to be a look at all of this and the safety of keeping our residents safe, keeping our guides safe, keeping visitors safe, and ensuring that, you know, the impacts of tourism aren't felt any more than they should be within our neighborhoods. That having been said, this is just a safety ordinance for Howard Street, sort of an emergency measure. Background on Howard Street is it is signed as a shared street. There is not a walkable sidewalk on Howard Street right now. There never has been. There is a sidewalk that is often parked upon, which is why it was designated as a shared street when the street was reconstructed in 2021. We cannot prevent a public guide from walking down a street that's open to the public. So guides are more frequently walking down Howard Street to tell the stories of Howard Street Cemetery and Giles Corey, and they're stopping in the middle of the street to tell those stories with groups of 40 people within their tour groups. This is, in my view, and I think in the view of Sergeant Ball and others, not safe behavior for the residents, for drivers, for the visitors. So the compromise that we came up with was to allow guides to traverse on Howard Street, but to prevent them from giving stories or narration on Howard Street, or stopping and moving towards the end of the street to the old Salem jail lot to give their narration down there. This has already received first passage, so this would go back to the council for second passage if this committee chooses. So I will open it up to either Maureen Fisher or the council to ask questions. Maureen, did you have any other info you want to give on that, or did that pretty much cover the situation? Councilor Morcillo.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have no problem with allowing this for Howard Street. The problem is that Howard Street is not the only one like this. As I said before, Botts Court is in the same situation. I actually heard from two residents. I'm not the ward counselor there, but they did call me, and I had a long conversation with these two people in different places, and they have about 240 people an hour up and down that street, no sidewalks, and really nothing I can't figure out why they're on there making up, well, besides the fact that they're making stuff up. And, you know, this one woman told me that tourists are taking pictures of her kids playing in the yard or playing in the street because that is kind of their yard-ish. Another one can't use his backyard because it's right there, and there's people constantly right there. This is a problem. I think I've said to you, Chair, that I've watched tour groups on Chestnut Street, and everybody leans up against a house right across from Hamilton Hall, and the tour guide is speaking right at them into the open windows on Chestnut Street. Like, we need to do something about the group sizes. There shouldn't be groups of 40 in residential areas, and they certainly shouldn't be going until 11 o'clock at night. These residents told me that during the week, groups are coming down at 10:30 at night. That's beyond the last hour. It should only be at 10 o'clock. They are using amplification in October. So, as you said, this whole thing is a bigger issue. We need to get a handle on what areas are going to allow tours at night that have nothing to do with scary Halloween stories. They're just making things up to extend tours. So I would love to see a limit on the number of people in tours. I would love to see a limit of daytime hours only. I would, and I just think we need to be a little bit smarter, especially about places like Howard Street, where, yes, there is a cemetery, and Botts Court, where there is nothing of significance other than what they're making up. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just add that though I am in complete agreement with just about everything that you said, I do want to make sure we keep this narrow to what's publicly posted on the agenda, which is Howard Street tonight. Councilor Jerslow.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to let you all know that I've met with our city solicitor and assistant clerk, Ms. Fisher, and also our city clerk in discussing the tour guide ordinance. We're trying to rework some things, so we welcome any comments or information. I've been taking notes as Councilor Hill has been talking, but I think, yeah, there's a lot to talk about, and it probably wouldn't be done for this year, but for next year, we're hoping to get a better ordinance in place to protect everybody, the safety of the tour groups and the residents in Salem. So I would make a motion that we amend Section 4030 and add these prohibitions for Howard Street as stated.
Second.
A motion to accept the ordinance as written, seconded by Councilor Morcillo. Any additional conversation? Seeing none, all those in favor? I see 3 in favor and none opposed. That matter carries. Okay, we will move on to the petition from Peter Vallis. Thank you, Maureen. Thank you. Good night. Have a good night. Keep what? Oh, thank you. You want your pen back? I'm stealing from Andy. Okay, we have with us Annie Harris, Peter Vallis, and I've forgotten the name. I apologize.
Eric Sandwell.
Eric Sandwell. Annie and Eric are from the Tinkers Island Association, both from the Tinkers Island Association, and Peter Vallis is the petitioner. I will give the history of the last 110 years, as best I understand it, of Tinkers Island very briefly. And Peter, Annie, just correct me as if I miss anything here. Tinkers Island is city property. It is leased to the Tinkers Island Association. Am I correct on that? Okay, I thought I heard something. It is leased to Tinkers Island Association. It's a group of camps on the island, or cottages on the island, by the agreement that was struck with the city in the 1960s. There are allowed to be 14 cottages on the island. In the early 1990s, as a group, they received virtually no city services, no trash pickup. They pay a lump sum back to the city each year as part of that lease agreement. In the early 1990s, Mr. Vallis, who had a camp on the island, had there was a hurricane that came through and destroyed the camp. In that course of time, from the 1990s up until about 2014, there was, at some point, I think it was 2007 or so, Mr. Vallis stopped paying his dues to the Tinkers Island Association, which then paid their money to the city. His membership lapsed, and eventually, there was an agreement made with an assessment done on the island, or on the site, that it was assessed at $3,000 per year. So the agreement was that we could go back in time and we could pay the dues which I think amounted to about $7,000 from Mr. Vallis, or Mr. Vallis could pay the $3,000 for the assessment, or receive payment of the $3,000 for the assessment and forego his camp to the Tinkers Island Association. So I think the other wrinkle here is, in the meantime, there was a 15th camp built on the island, completely separate from this situation in that time period, and there were legal battles being fought in the early 2000s that raised fees for everybody. So I think that the solution here has been that, Peter agreed to give up his campsite. That there's, I think, now 14 campsites on the, or 14 cabins on the island, and Peter would like to, I believe, ask the city to reinstate his site on the property. The city solicitor has not recommended that we move forward with accepting this, as there would be no legal or possible way to do something like this, and there was an agreement that was signed in the meantime. But did I get all of that? Appreciate that. I guess I'll let Peter come up, and Peter, if you'd like to come up and say a few words, you're welcome to.
Okay. Greetings, city councilors. Today, October 8, 2025, this is Peter H. Vallis, V-A-L-L-I-S. Born in Salem and graduated from Salem State University and worked as a real estate title examiner at Essex County Registry of Deeds, Salem, for decades. Now I'm a real estate broker and licensed auctioneer. I request to have the former parcel number 47-0001-907, also known as Lot 7, in Ward 1, Precinct 1 on Tinkers Island. I request that it be reassessed and reinstated on the city's tax roll. The state requires state tax forms 62 and 63 be filed to correct omitted taxed properties. I request to be the only tax bill recipient of this lot, as was issued from 1984 to 2010. From 2011 to present, no one has been assessed to pay taxes on the lot. There are no descriptive metes and bounds of record on the lot or on any other lot on the island. On June 12, I submitted a 7-page petition. Page 2 is a 2009 city and municipal lien certificate indicating 20,000 square feet assessed to me. Page 3 indicates the lot on the map. Page 4 in the city's Patriot property list of the 14 leased lots, lot 47-0001-907, lot 7, is missing from the page. On page 5 of my petition, that's the last mention of my name as a tax bill recipient. And page 6 is a copy of the parcel in the year 2010. Now, I realize that there's 14 cottages out there, but there's actually 15 lots on the island. That's it.
Okay, so as I understand the situation out there, I don't know that we could, I guess correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know that we could say that there are officially lots on the island. There is land that is owned by the city, that is leased to the Tinkers Island Association, and there are 14 cottages. Per the agreement from 1969, there's 14 cottages allowed on that island. There are currently 14 cottages on the island. So what you're asking for is a change to the agreement that the city made with the Tinkers Island Association to add a separate lot?
No, I'm not asking to build. I respect the fact that there's 14 cottages. I'm not trying to add a 15th. I just want to be reassessed as the sole taxpayer of Lot 7, that's all.
And again, the issue being here, there are no lots on Tinkers Island. There's an island that is leased to the Tinkers Island Association.
Lot 7 was omitted from the tax roll. The Tinkers Island Association is not managing Lot 7. Lot 7 doesn't even exist on any longer.
Is it fair to say that Lot 7 is even a lot anymore with erosion and things that have been happening on that island?
Erosion has nothing to do with it. If you take a look at the island, or take a look at a map, there's clearly every lot designated, including Lot 7.
And I want to just go back and sort of correct myself. When I say lot, I don't know that we designate anything as a lot, from my understanding of talking to the city solicitor on that island. But thank you for that information, Peter. Appreciate that.
I can show you maps and plans if you like.
Would you folks want to, do you have anything you'd like to say as well? Or Peter, would you mind stepping aside, and we'll allow Annie folks to?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Annie Harris, resident of Salem, and I also have a camp on Tinkers Island. Calling them cottages is being very generous. They're very small. And actually, they date back from about the 1880s, we believe, when they were built as fishing camps. There's very good fishing around there. The Tinkers Island Association bought Peter's interest in his camp that had collapsed in 2014. I think you have seen that, but this is, it's a bill of sale. We bought it from him. The lots are confusing. The city of Salem taxes each of us individually and has these parcel numbers on their tax bill. But they're not parcels. They're not, the island's never been subdivided. They're not legal boundaries. They're not legal parcels. It was a convenience, as I understand it, to the assessor's office to assign these numbers and kind of draw a line around a camp as a way to bill people. So we pay real estate taxes and personal property tax. But the island is owned by the city of Salem. It is one island, one lot, I guess you would call it. And there isn't any separate lot 107 or something that Peter could lease. We lease the entire island. We have insurance, liability insurance, which names the city of Salem in it, so that you're protected, and we also make sure that people are welcome to come to it, but we make sure that, no kids are coming out there to drink or anything, because there's people out there, but people are welcome to come.
Councilor Jerslow.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Harris, everybody pays a separate tax individually, or does the association pay the whole tax bill for all the lots?
Everybody pays an individual real estate tax and a personal property tax. We pay a lease payment or license payment to the city of Salem is paid by the association. So we give them dues to pay for that.
Okay, thank you.
When this first came up with the taxes, we asked, Deb Jackson was the assessor there, and we said, how could you be taxing us? We're paying lease, And she said, oh, well, we actually can. We get our taxes wherever we can.
And as I understand it, that was the initial battle between Marblehead and Salem over the ownership of the island, was the ability to tax
Eligibility tax.
the cottages, the camps. Councilor Marceau.
Thank you, Chair. So there's 14 structures
Yes.
that make up this association. If something happens to a structure, how long do they have to rebuild?
I think the bylaws are 3 years?
3 years.
3 years. Usually, if anybody comes, we'll give them an extension. If they say, I just couldn't get it together, would you give me an extension?
So during that time, they're still paying dues, hopefully, that's the rule.
Right.
And it's my understanding that the taxes that are paid to the city are on the structure.
Yes.
So, okay, so, and the personal property, wait, what are the two taxes paid to the city?
Real estate tax, which is just on the structure because we don't own the land, and personal property is for the contents in the structure since it's not our primary residence.
Got it, okay, all right. And so when all of this happened, there was a 15th something entity that appeared?
Well, it gets confusing, but yes, in the mid-2000s, a person, Manny Silva, built in October, November, when everybody had left the island, he started building a structure, unbeknownst to the Island Association. And he was discovered when there was a storm and a lot of his wood washed up to Marblehead Neck. People on the neck called the association, said, what's going on? We have wood all over our beach. We realized somebody was building out there. And the building inspector put a cease and desist order on his building, and then he sued the association. He sued the president at the time, David Davies, personally. And we had I think it was 6 years of wrangling and lawyers. The dues did go up at that point because we had to pay for lawyers.
Okay. All right, but in 2014, Mr. Vallis, you had an agreement that you bought him out. He signed the agreement, and part of that was that he would, remove any sort of legal things going on with the city. That's what I understand, right?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
And just to add to that, a significant part of that buy.
Come up to,
Come up here, Mike. This is the president, Eric Campbell, is the president of the organization now. I'm vice president. And his family's had a camp on the island since 1917.
Yeah, 1917, yeah.
yeah, Eric, just for the audience who may or may not be listening at home, just speak into the microphone. And Peter, I'll give you a chance to come back up and speak as well, okay?
So a major part of
And sorry to interrupt you one more time. If you could kind of pull that microphone up and speak directly into it so people can hear.
So Eric Sandblom. And when we bought Peter Vallis out, that part of that agreement was that we were transferring that campsite over to the 15th structure to make that a legal site, so that we were able to negotiate and eventually buy him out, because the structure was already built, and, so that's how we maintain the 14 sites on the island. So there is nothing where Mr. Vallis's cottage was.
Okay. And at this time, you were potentially in violation of the agreement signed with the city, because you had 15-ish structures, and then the removal of that site, I guess, you're back to 14, and you're at 14 today.
Right, yep.
All good, Councilor Marceau? Peter, did you want? Let's just make sure that we're keeping this one comment at a time. Come up to the mic, speak your piece, and then move on.
This gentleman just said that the 14th was given to the 15th. I don't get that. Or it merged with the 15th, and I don't understand that at all. All I know is that my lot, the lot that I was the sublessee of Lot 7, no longer exists. It exists on paper in dated maps. It exists in my file, but it doesn't currently exist on the City of Salem Patriot Properties Assessment page. If you look at the page of the 14 owners, you'll see 14 lots, 14 numbers, but they omitted lot 907. In order to correct that, the city would have to agree to reassess lot 907, and then report that to the Mass Department of Revenue regarding omitted tax revenue.
Council Marcelo.
When I settled years ago on the supposed buyout, that had nothing to do with the city of Salem coming forward and...
Let's just put a pause on that real quick, Peter, and we'll move on to that topic right after. But Council Marcelo, I think you had a question on the previous.
Okay.
No, I just wanted to say again that, as Councilor Hepworth said, these aren't lots, right? They're structures.
No.
It's not a lot. It's a structure.
No.
It's being taxed as a structure.
Structure on a lot.
It's a structure on city-owned land that's being leased by the association. This is the whole thing. Like, it's not a lot as you would look out at a house here that is on land that has a lot. There's no measurable lot. It's you're being taxed for property taxes on the structure. But the only way the system can handle it is if there's some sort of lot type equivalence. So that's, I think, where the disconnect is you have a map with structures on it that are numbered, but that can change as structures come and go because it's the structure that the city cares about.
If the city cares about the structure, then there shouldn't be any dispute because I have no intention of building a structure. I'm just concerned about the lot. That's all. I have no intention to build a house. My associates who just walked in, they're involved in the construction industry, all right? And we've discussed this. The highest and best use is to put seasonal tents out there because there's no amenities. There's no well water. This is off-the-grid living. So I have no intention of putting a wooden structure. And I have no intention of going to Superior Court and litigating either. You know, my request starts and ends here, that's all.
Okay. Do we want to move on to the agreement to sell your, I guess, your interest in the Tinkers Island Association, or in the space where you're located?
In this year?
The $3,000 payment that you took.
Okay, so I settled with the Tinkers Island Association years ago, but I was still receiving tax bills from the city until then. And since then, there haven't been any tax bills issued on that lot. So the lot has been abandoned, for any other word.
Councilor Marcel?
So again, because the property taxes are on a structure. Now, it was...
I was receiving tax bills
Peter,
when there was no structure.
Excuse me. Please let
Understood.
Councilor Marcel finish.
So according to the assessor today, it's the owner's responsibility to let the city know if there is no structure, and that didn't happen. right? But it's not the city's job to go out and look at all the structures on Tinker Island and make sure that they're still there before sending a tax bill. We just send tax bills for properties and structures on Tinker's Island, right? But it was your responsibility to tell the city that there was no structure. And I think it's probably because there's this disconnect between the property tax being for land as opposed to a structure. And the property tax paid to Salem is for the structure.
My house was demolished in a storm about 1994, and I continued getting tax bills until about 2010. Maybe a year later, one of the city councilors, Joe, I don't remember his last name, he was an elderly gentleman.
Joe O'Keefe.
Joe O'Keefe, he came out to the island and he visited the island and he saw the lots and he saw the structures. And then Joe came back and reported it to city council.
Right, again, it was your responsibility to tell the assessor's office that there was no structure, that the storm wiped out the structure.
And Joe didn't tell the city council?
I don't know, Joe, that was a long time ago.
Well, I didn't know it was my responsibility to tell the city.
Yep. How else would the city know that the structure was taken out by a storm? Right, so
Just by viewing it. I mean, periodically, doesn't the city do
inspections,
appraisals, and value assessments on any property in the city?
I want to be careful about getting too deep in the weeds here, but no, we don't do an assessment on every property in Salem, an inspection on every property in Salem every single year.
All right.
Okay, anything else, Peter, that you want to add as part of your petition here tonight?
If you want me to pay some reinstatement fee in lieu of whatever, just like some kind of a buyback fee, if that exists. I'm sure the city council can come up with something equitable to all of us, I hope.
So I'll say for myself here, I think appreciate you taking the time to bring this to us, Peter. I think I've learned a lot about Tinker's Island, which I think is important here. I think that your request here is not one of selfishness. You're not trying to make money off of the property. We understand that. You're not trying to pull one over on anybody. I think you have a genuine interest in wanting to be on an island that you probably spent a lot of time on over the years. The issue that we run into here, speaking for myself, is that we have an agreement between the city and the Tinker's Island Association whereby the city owns the entire island, leases it out to the Tinker's Island Association, charges taxes on structures, and there is no longer a structure there that exists since the mid-90s. You sold your interest in it to the Tinker's Island Association. There was an agreement made. You received the money of $3,000 to do that. There's also an agreement between the city and the Tinker's Island Association that there's 14 structures on that island. There's currently 14 structures on that island. There is not a way that we as a body can carve out a lot without violating this agreement here and give it over to an individual to use for camping or for whatever it is that you wanted to use it for. The island is owned by the city. The structures are owned by the individuals. So I think in my view, there is nothing we as a body can do to change that. But I'll open up to the rest of the council if there's anything else that you'd like to say or any questions you'd like to ask. Councilor Gerslow.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Vallis, thank you for bringing this to our attention. Like Councilor Hapworth, I did learn a lot about Tinker's Island, and it is in my ward. But where you did in 2014 give up your right to the association, and you were paid for it, you never owned the land, like Councilor Hapworth stated. You only owned the building that was there. It was demolished in 1990. So you have no right to the land on the island. So I would agree with Councilor Hapworth that you have no course for this.
Well, the Tinkers Island Association essentially manages the island for the city. So I gave up my rights to a management company. I didn't give up my rights to the owner of the island. I'm a real estate broker. I know a little bit about leases and sales.
I want to be,
Originally, there were 15 structures out there. This 14 number may have occurred in a Tinkers Island.
1969. So, Peter, I want to be careful about creating a back and forth here between the council and yourself. Is there anything else you want to add before we deliberate on our side?
No, just thank you for hearing it all.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further from the council? So if I read the temperature of the room, I think the motion would be to make a recommendation to the full council. I'll just for, Peter, for your own information here, the decision that we make here tonight is not the final decision. The decision that we make here tonight is a recommendation to the full council. So if I'm reading the room right, I think that the decision, the recommendation we want to make is to recommend this be discharged. But I'll leave it to the committee to make that motion. I mean, you could make the motion that it be denied. The petition. Where's the petition? I think it's in here. I think either motion would work, so motion to deny.
I would recommend that this be returned to the city council with a recommendation to deny the request to reinstate the law.
Councilor Orsillo moves to recommend this be denied.
I second that.
Second by Councilor Jerslow. All those in favor? I see 3 hands, including my own. The matter carries. Anything else? Seeing none. Any other motions?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, guys.